We're here today with Chris Boucher from the Imperial Valley in California. He is the first to grow industrial hemp in the United States in 1994, and that was by permission from the local USDA research station as well as the local agricultural commission at the state level. So thank you very much for joining us here today. It's really a pleasure to have you in the state of Colorado.
Well, I'm honored to be here in the Rocky Mountains.
It's a good place. So today, it's kind of funny, I actually ran into, literally, Chris Boucher at the Amendment 64 board meeting, the governor's board meeting. And as a lot of you out there that understand the history of hemp are aware, he's one of the prominent figures that has probably the most knowledge about what industrial hemp can offer us at a farming level, at an economic level, and community and social environmental levels as well. And so, Chris, I wanted to ask you a little bit more about the background, just to give us some context in Imperial Valley, and what it took to actually grow those plants and what stopped you. So, if you could just give us a little context as to how you actually got that first seed in the ground, and then take it from there.
That's always a good question.
Yeah.
Actually, we started as a global issue, national issue, and the bottom line, we knew that if we were going to grow this crop, since we had Hempstead company making hats, wallets, bags, hemp seed oil, hemp seed, all imported from China. Our main motto was "Made in America." If you see our old advertisement,
right,
it says Hempstead, Made in USA. It was before the anti-China movement, and but we were. Definitely, that was our motive, but we realized that we had to start locally. And we went in, we picked out a farming community that had ties to hemp 60, 70 years ago. And we were able to, identify an area to grow this crop. And we have interviewed quite a few people, farmers, and we were asked to do a presentation with the local USDA research station on our crop. And the president of Dick Kershaw, was the president of the USDA research station at the time, actually for the last 22 years, and he asked the board of directors to review it, and they thought it would enhance the local economy.
Fantastic.
We said, hey, if we grow this crop, it wasn't, one issue was the fiber, the food, the textiles, but one of our main components was we were going to generate some jobs in Imperial Valley, California. The unemployment rate at the time was about 28%. I think last week it was probably like 27 or 27.5% unemployment. And that's the average in California and most farming communities. So we were able to use that in our sort of like a social investment, to create jobs in a very depressed community. And agriculture happens to have the hardest hit unemployment in the United States of America. Go to any state and you find the highest unemployment rate is in the agricultural communities.
This is essentially what we're facing here in Colorado.
So what I'm trying to say is that was like, I think, the emotional issue that made the whole community say, we're going to grow this crop. Our grandparents grew it. Because granted, this was Imperial Valley where the Schlichting decorticator was invented. And we're all familiar with the Schlichting decorticator. It was when the first machine that was invented in the 20s could decorticate hemp into fiber. And Scripps and all the newspapers wanted to.
So what's
newspapers? We won't go there. Let's stay focused.
So what's interesting though is you're bringing to the table exactly what our strategy is here in Colorado with HB 1099, the fighter remediation bill that we passed last year. We feel that this is a jobs issue, that this is something that the farming community needs. And also, from my perspective, I need to respect them as farmers because I believe that they really are the heart of America. They keep us alive with the food, the soil, and so on and so forth. Honestly, I have to say thank you to you. What I modeled our progress off of was what you had done in the past. It was
Well,
kind of
I am
correcting-
honored that you guys did it, man.
connecting-
High five, you guys
It's
did
connecting
it,
with
man.
those
Yeah.
with those people. They're just like us. And so yeah, thank you for that. I really appreciate that.
Yeah,
That's
it's one of the
huge.
first bills, I think, that was passed through legislation for actual
Yes.
grow status.
Yes, and so we actually have a current project. We are growing in the state of Colorado some hemp plants, and we are moving forward with the federal remediation study. But my question for you, in addition to HB 1099, since then, this last year in November, we passed Amendment 64. And so I find it interesting to run into you at the governor's board meeting about Amendment 64. But what brought you here to Colorado? What interested you specifically in relation to HB 1099 and also currently what we're trying to do with industrial hemp?
Well, we saw it as a major victory for the whole hemp movement, cannabis, sativa hemp, which was classified. And comparative to all the other hemp bills, I'm thinking there's 14 or 15 states that have industrial hemp legislation. And the Amendment 64 wasn't just legislation, it was dictating the state constitution. So we saw that as a real logical and professional way for a state to implement these laws. You know, and the public has been involved in it, and we thought it would be a good idea to approach the state, or actually the farmers, and develop some hemp seed processing mills in some communities.
So this is the big question. A lot of people see the value and they're excited about Amendment 64 and the hemp, and everyone talks about hemp, but for the people that we're talking to in terms of the general population that doesn't know what hemp is, I think what I'd like to ask you is, can you take us into what the real economy may look like? How is this going to help out in terms of numbers? How many jobs could actually be produced? What kind of economic potential can be brought to the state in terms of taxes or environmental repair or export products? I want to take this beyond that burlap sack idea, if you will, of hemp, because this actually goes into the aerospace industry, into food products, and so on and so forth. So if you could talk about the actual concrete numbers that we want to be brought towards, or examples of.
Yes, definitely. I mean, currently, well, so say 2012, it's estimated at about $500 million in industrial hemp sales, and that's all inclusive of shampoos to clothing.
And that's just in the
to
United
seed oil.
States.
That's just in the United States, and that's without Whole Foods and the Body Shop reporting on the revenue. It's called the SPINS data study, and it was done by professional retail products industry consulting firm. Anyways, they're very well known. It's called the SPINS data studies, and they do them and everything, and they did one on
Look that up.
hemp.
Look up the SPINS.
Yeah, SPINS studies, and you can see what each category from every product, and it was a great putting the finger on the pulse of the industry. So we're talking $500 million in 2012, and that is all 100% imported industrial hemp products.
And it sounds like that's really still a niche market. So that's not including, say, the auto
that's
industry.
not, well, that figure's not including Whole Foods. What we could say is probably another 100 million or maybe 50 million. Will be conservative. So if we could maybe get 10% of that revenue the first year, bring it into Colorado, and be able to enter the market, I think that would be quite substantial to the economy. Yeah, well, we'll say 10% of $500 million. How much is that? That's $50 million that we could pour back into the state with the local farm economy.
Fantastic.
Yes.
That really that puts things in perspective, in concrete terms.
We would have to have a lot of investment into infrastructure. You know, we just can't grow it and expect like buyers will come. I mean, there is a market already built here in the United States. It's just being able to take it from raw seed or raw fiber and turning it into a
So oil
fixed
pressing
product.
is relatively simple in terms of infrastructure. That's something that probably exists in the state of Colorado already.
Yeah, you'd operate as a food service facility, food agriculture.
And then I also understand in gypsum, there may be a plant that's already been tooled to produce OSB, fiberboard. And so it's interesting to see that we actually may be able to take current infrastructure in the state of Colorado and start to gear it towards using the hemp economy and actually sell product right out of the field. Because that's the big concern to the farmer. They want to know, hey, I need to know, can I sell this product?
Yes.
Not
yes.
after I build this stuff.
Exactly. The building materials are all sequestered carbon.
So building blocks,
in essence, you're not just buying a product, you're buying sequestered carbon. We're talking 2,500 pounds of sequestered carbon per acre. Okay. How can I compare that to another crop? Cotton is negative 800 pounds of carbon. So our future is all going to be sequestering carbon, and that kind of ecological approach, I think, is going to make it really sustainable. And we just have to re-educate the consumers of what's more important. You know, a product that consumes 15 kilograms of carbon just to wear that shirt or wear that hat or eat that food. And as a planet, we're going to have to be conscious about that in the future.
You bring up the cotton aspect of this, and obviously cotton nowadays has a bad connotation to it.
Cotton emits 800 pounds per acre of carbon.
And
so it's actually, you're already starting with a negative carbon product before you even get it.
And from what I understand, this shirt, for example, used approximately 9,000 liters of water to produce a cotton shirt, whereas it only would be 300 liters for a hemp shirt.
A short sleeve men's t-shirt consumes about 300 gallons of water, maybe 500, depending on if it was organic or commercial.
So my math's a little off, but yeah.
There's a couple different figures out there, depending if you did irrigated cotton or
it's
you
still
did...
considerably more in terms of the water consumption.
Yeah, a hemp t-shirt would probably consume, well, a hemp t-shirt's 55%, 45% cotton. So it still consumes water, but that 55% hemp has a sequestered carbon quality to it that is just, there's no other plant that can sequester carbon like this, I mean,
that hemp experiment house they built in Asheville has been referenced to sequester 22,000 pounds, I think it is, of CO2 in its lifetime, or its expected lifetime. So these numbers are fascinating. They're tremendous. They're not only positive numbers, but they're big positive numbers. Like you had pointed out, cotton has a negative impact.
And after you grow cotton, every single farmer to this day that you cannot grow on that field that you grew that cotton on for 2 years. They just what they do is they
environmentally detrimental.
Well, I've worked with a lot of different farmers. A lot of cotton farmers all want to grow hemp, and so they rotate their acreage in three. Every 3 years, they move all their crops. And they have this whole rotator system.
And they leave the other 2 seasons fallow, essentially, just empty crops or no crops.
Yeah, they'll do some green till, or they might chemically fertilize it, depending. But now with the BT cotton, that is the new white gold, in California, Arizona. But now that water's gone up,
right?
We were paying $10 an acre foot. It went up to 20. I think here in Colorado, you guys are paying San Luis Valley, DOS. You could probably correct me on the acre foot, the cost per water in San Juan Valley.
I don't have that.
$75 to $100, I believe. Now, when you're in a metropolitan city like here in Golden, if you're a homeowner, you're probably paying $1,000 an acre foot, or maybe $1,200. So the farmer, so you couldn't grow industrial hemp in a residential urban area because of the cost of water.
Gotcha.
And then once the cost of water gets above $100, and that's one thing that happened with the cotton industry, it got hammered because the cost of water went up in Arizona, California, and they said, well, don't have enough money to pay for the water.
So what you're presenting here, though, is that this crop affects so many different areas economically, obviously in terms of its environmental impacts and value-added product potential, but in terms of its positive economic potential, just by putting that plant to the ground, we're looking at something that has impacts that are not just one layer deep, but they're multiple layers deep. And so it's the water consumption, it's the lack of, or using less pesticides, herbicides, it's bringing in more rotation crops instead of just putting greenfield, for
Yeah, it's a
example.
real good eco-friendly
Yeah.
business plan model, and that's, definitely, I think in any business now, it's not how great your product is, but what's your footprint, what's your green, green
The
part of your
ecological
company?
footprint.
Yeah.
And
I think that's
reminds me of my urban planning and environmental design days. Chris, I know there's a lot more to talk about, but we really need to kind of keep this short. So I just want to say thank you again for being here. It's really a pleasure.
Thank you, 1099, man.
Thank you
Keep
for that as
thing
well.
rolling, man. Glad to see you.
And just to throw this at you, and this is why I'm excited to have you up here, and for the people out there, we're just about to introduce a industrial hemp bill for Colorado. So keep that in the back of your head and think about what we can talk about next time we have you on.
All right.
So thanks again. Thanks for listening, and we'll have more for you later.